So the last topic that we're going to talk about in the video series for the personality module has to do with the trait theories and how they evolved. We're specifically going to look at the Big Five model or the ocean model in comparison to the Hexaco model. And there's a few reasons why this is important. It's going to show that there's been a pretty consistent debate in personality psychology over which traits are meaningful and which ones we should be measuring. And it's also going to show where some of the current interest in personality theory and psychology is today. So we are going to pull up our slides. Okay, so the Big Five versus the Hexaco. So the evolution of the trait theories and why this matters. So since personality theory began, there's been a pretty significant debate over which traits are important to study. Which ones can give us meaningful comparisons? Which ones can we actually do things with? Alport characterized 4,500 words that we use in the English language as traits that are used to describe people's personality. Obviously, trying to measure 4,500 traits in every single person would not, it'd be too complicated, it'd be too in-depth, it would be too much. It really wouldn't be able to give us any meaningful comparisons. Cattell combined some of those into 171 traits that were located on 16 continuums. So basically what this looks like is there would be a list of 16, this side and this side. And for all 16, you would fall somewhere on this spectrum. And those 16 different spectrums would contain 171 key personality traits. So that's less than 4,500, but still you have endless combinations of personality types that could be created from that. The ISNCs said, y'all are making this way too complicated. There's 2 key dimensions, and everyone would fall as either high or low on both of those, which would create 4 different groups of personality types. So everyone can be effectively categorized as one of 4 types. So much more simple, and your textbook goes over what exactly those dimensions are. But so that's much more simple, but there were a lot of people who looked at that and said, okay, you've gone too far. You've simplified this too much. We can't divide everyone into one of 4 personality types. There's far more human variation than that. So the 5-factor model emerged as a middle ground. It contains some of the same ideas as Cattell's 16 continuums, because this is still a continuum, it's still a spectrum. You're going to score high or low on openness. You're going to score high or low on how extroverted you are. So you still have this continuum idea, but you only have 5 variables you're looking at. So the 5-factor model is really well established in research. They use it a lot for research. It's empirically validated. It has a lot of professional support. Like for a long time, that was the personality measure, was the 5-factor model or the Big Five model. But even within that, eventually people started looking at it and saying, you know, there's something here that's not fully being captured. And so the revision that came up to it is, well, we're not really capturing pro-social behaviors or altruistic behaviors. And so the revision that was proposed was Hexaco, with that first H standing for honesty. So here's what this revision looked like. As you can see, you still have openness on both of them. You still have extroversion on both of them. You still have conscientiousness. You still have agreeableness. And neuroticism was relabeled as emotionality. Now, some of these, there are some slight variations in how they conceptualize them, but for the point of this unit, for the point of introductory level personality theory, they're basically the same ideas. The one thing that was added in was this honesty and humility construct. And so then Big Five is still incredibly popular. People still use the 5-factor model very frequently in psychology research. It is still a default, it is still a go-to. But there's a few reasons why this modification to the Hexaco model was important. The first thing is that it illustrates the various applications of trait theory. Depending on what I'm wanting to do with my research or what I'm wanting to do with my personality typology, the traits that I individually want to measure matter quite a bit. It also illustrates the point that as long as personality theory has been around, professionals have been kind of debating over which traits are the most important to measure, which ones are optional, which ones are central to a person's core personality type. And the reason that this is important has to do with what we're doing with today's personality test. Are we becoming overly confident in what we're using them for? This is especially relevant when we're talking about the MBTI, or the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Now, full disclosure, I love the MBTI. I think it's very useful. I think you can do amazing things with it professionally, personally, in the education realm. It's really great. If you've never heard of the MBTI, if you've never taken a version of it, I would very much encourage you to look it up. It's a really great measure, and I'll make sure I include a link to a good resource for it in your supplementary materials. But the issue is, people started realizing this is really accurate and this is really helpful. And they started taking it out of the realm of helpfulness and into the realm of determinism. And that becomes problematic. They were using it for employment and pre-employment screenings and saying, well, we're going to bump this candidate down on our list, even though they look great on paper and they interviewed well, because the way their MBTI comes back, they're not as good of a fit for our team. There's record of it being used in academic advising at colleges, and students were actively being discouraged from pursuing a major they were interested in because, well, based on your MBTI, you're not really a good fit for this career that you're thinking about. And so it started being removed from the realm of, based on your personality, you're probably naturally good at these things, naturally strong at these things. You probably have more difficulty when it comes to here, here, and here. And it started being used in a much more deterministic way of, because of your personality, you could not be good at this. You would not be a good option for this. And that caused a lot of concern among personality theorists to say, okay, you're going too far. Because if we're always debating what traits are even important, how can we use a personality inventory to kick someone out of a job or to discourage a student from a major? Shifting gears a little bit, the last reason why that Hexaco revision is because of a more recent area of research in personality theory called the Dark Triad. This term probably sounds totally new because your textbook didn't mention it at all. Part of that is because it is a newer area of research. It only became popular in about 2012. Basically what the Dark Triad is, I'll try not to go too far into this. This is an area that I find fascinating, so I will try to restrain myself. It sounds very ominous, the Dark Triad. But what the Dark Triad is people were looking at personality theory and saying, we have a lot of things that will say, you know, this could create difficulties for you in relationships. This could be maladaptive when it comes to occupational success because it could mean you're less motivated and things like that. So we have things that do come across as this could be problematic in your life. But we never go quite as far in personality as to say this could make you a dangerous person. This could be an indicator that you're somebody who could hurt somebody, or that you're somebody who'd be capable of committing a crime, or you're somebody who could create so much chaos in a work environment that you're actually causing problems within a company. So the Dark Triad is 3 personality traits of psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. And these are measured, and the combination of these 3 is said to be able to predict if you actually have the potential of being a dangerous or a criminal person. So why does this matter for the Hexaco? What they found with research is that H element that was added in, that honesty, is pretty much a direct inverse of beginning screenings for Dark Triad. So if you have a high H score, we probably don't need to worry about you in this area. If you have a very, very low H score, then that could be a red flag, a warning indicator that maybe this is somebody that needs screened for Dark Triad traits. So for that research, or for that area of interest, or for therapy focusing on criminal reform or those types of things, that Hexaco model brings a valuable tool beyond what the 5 key traits in the Big 5 or the 5-factor model has to offer. If you're interested in learning more about the Dark Triad, there's lots of really great resources you can find on that. But that, for now, will conclude our discussion of why the traits that we look at matter and what their history of revision has been.